Hi everyone, I'm Sheriff Jim Fredericks, and I'm looking for your help to bring wanted persons to justice. The Sheriff's Office works hard to keep our community safe, and this is your chance to join me in locating people actively sought by law enforcement. So get ready, you're about to go around Anne Arundel County with me on the lookout. Hi, I'm Anne Arundel County Sheriff Jim Fredericks. Thanks for joining me on the lookout for November 2019. This month's show is packed with scores of subjects who all have open warrants. Their last known addresses are spread across the county, and their charges range from misdemeanors to felonies. If you recognize a name or face, call our warrant tip line at 410-LOOKOUT or 410-566-5688. Okay, it's time to go on the lookout. From North County, we have a story involving two subjects, Dion Trey McGow and DeJuan DeMarco Stevens. Dion Trey McGow is a 36-year-old African-American male, 5'11", 160 pounds. His last known address is 7900 Tall Pines Court, Apartment G in Glen Burnie. DeJuan DeMarco Stevens is a 31-year-old African-American male, 5'7", 150 pounds. His last known address is 7985 Crossover Drive in Glen Burnie. On August 29 of 2019, Anne Arundel County Police responded to Hospital Drive in Glen Burnie for suspicious subjects next to a car. Upon arrival, the officers could see that there was a male in the driver's seat and a male in the passenger seat of the reported vehicle. When the suspects saw the officer approaching, they exited the vehicle rapidly, closing the doors, and attempted to walk away. Officers approached the subjects, asked for identification, and confirmed they were Dion Trey McGow and DeJuan DeMarco Stevens. The two advised the officers that the owner of the car was Larice Gow, who was working at the hospital and had parked it there. Gow and Stevens were waiting for her, but they did not have the keys. A check of the vehicle registration showed that the car was not registered to Ms. Gow, but was in fact a rental car. The officers again asked for the keys, but the two males claimed they did not have them. Both subjects were released from the scene by county officers, and the car was towed to the Eastern District Police Station. Upon searching the vehicle, a loaded H&K .40 caliber handgun was found under the driver's seat with a loaded magazine. After running both subjects, Mr. Gow and Mr. Stevens, through a police database, it was discovered that they were prohibited from owning a firearm or being in possession of one due to prior felony convictions. Both subjects have been charged with a loaded handgun in a vehicle and firearm possession with felony convictions. The next subject is Paul Ivan Garman. He's a 34-year-old Caucasian male, 5'11", 139 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. On June 17th of 2019, during a routine patrol in the Glen Burnie area, an officer observed a male hunched over near a 7-Eleven store. The officer approached the man and asked if he was in need of medical attention. The subject advised he did not need any attention, but through prior contact with the individual, the officer was able to identify the man as Paul Ivan Garman. A check through police teletype showed Garman had an active warrant and he was placed under arrest. During a search of Garman, the officer located 5 clear capsules filled with a white substance that were later analyzed and tested positive for fentanyl. A warrant for CDS possession, not marijuana, has been issued for Paul Ivan Garman. His last known address is 1015A Bell Avenue in Glen Burnie. Our next subject is Ryan Joseph Mullen. He's a 48-year-old Caucasian male, 6'1", 210 pounds, with brown hair and hazel eyes. Mullen was convicted of theft less than $1,000 during June of 2015 and was sentenced to 2 years of supervised probation. Mullen enrolled in a recovery program per the conditions of his probation. When the supervising agent reached out to his case manager, he was advised that Mullen did not fare well in the program and had voluntarily left. Mullen also tested positive for opiates while he was there. Mullen failed to comply with the terms of his probation, and a warrant for violation of probation has been issued. His last known address is 102 Leonard Court in Glen Burnie. The next subject is Christopher Athen Rogers. He's a 40-year-old African-American male, 6'5", 310 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. Christopher Rogers was convicted of forgery, private documents, theft scheme during January of 2018 and was placed on 3 years of supervised probation. Unfortunately, he violated several conditions of his probation. He failed to report to his supervising agent as instructed, he tested positive for cocaine, he failed to pay his restitution, and failed to attend or complete a drug treatment program. As a result, a violation of probation warrant has been issued for his arrest. His last known address is 7818 Stonebriar Drive in Glen Burnie. Out of Eastern, our first subject is Eric John Crawford. He's a 31-year-old Caucasian male, 6'3", 190 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. On October 4th of 2019, county police officers responded to Harry S. Truman Parkway and Admiral Cochran Drive for a domestic assault call. The female victim advised the suspect was on CDS, had gotten angry with her for changing the password on her phone, and attempted to slit his wrists while she was driving. When the victim pulled over and instructed the suspect to get out of the car, he proceeded to hit her multiple times in the face, breaking her eyeglasses, and then took a $500 winning lottery ticket from her purse. During this time, the victim's friend and father had arrived on scene, and the suspect attempted to flee. At some point during the confrontation, the suspect was able to re-enter the victim's car and drive off. A county officer followed the vehicle and observed the suspect driving erratically. Crawford eventually lost control and crashed the car. He was transported to shock trauma, treated, and released. His last known address is 133 Brent Road in Arnold. The next subject is Maurice Baker. He's a 30-year-old African-American male, 5'8", 145 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. On April 17th of 2019, Baker was terminated from the Anne Arundel County Circuit Court Drug Adult Court Program for violating the terms of the program and was ordered to sign a new probation order. The conditions of the new order included agreeing to report to his probation officer to totally abstain from the use, possession, or sale of any illegal substance and obey all laws. While on probation, Baker received new charges resulting in criminal summonses being issued for him. Additionally, he picked up new traffic charges on September 23rd of 2019. Baker also failed to notify his probation officer of the new charges. His last known address is 8328 Old Mill Road in Pasadena. Our next subject is Julian Anthony Joyner. He's a 25-year-old African-American male, 6'3", 170 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. On December 14th of 2019, Joyner was found guilty of conspiracy, possession with intent to distribute CDS, and was sentenced to a 5-year suspended sentence and 5 years of supervised probation. Joyner has failed to abide by the terms of his probation by failing to report to his probation officer and failing to enroll in substance abuse treatment. Joyner also received new charges in a neighboring county for assault in the first degree, assault in the second degree, and reckless endangerment. He currently has an outstanding warrant for those charges as well. His last known address is 7789 West Shore Road in Pasadena. The next subject is Robert W. Fredericks, Jr. He's a 60-year-old Caucasian male, 5'10", 200 pounds, with blonde hair and green eyes. On October 8th of 2019, county police responded to a residence in Pasadena in reference to a domestic assault. The female victim advised her boyfriend had punched her in the forehead, causing 2 black eyes, and fled on foot before police arrived. At first, the female refused to give the name of the suspect, but eventually confirmed that Robert Fredericks, Jr. had struck her. His last known address is 2416 230th Street in Pasadena. The next subject is Jason Edward Scott. He's a 38-year-old Caucasian male, 5'9", 155 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. Scott has a warrant for second-degree assault. On October 7th of 2019, county officers responded to an address in Pasadena in reference to a domestic assault. The daughter of a female victim had called the police and advised them that the mother's boyfriend, Scott, was acting crazy and had thrown her mother onto the couch. When the victim's daughter tried to intervene, Scott punched her approximately 10 times and pulled her to the ground by her hair. When police questioned her mother about the assault, she refused to discuss what had happened and claimed no assault had taken place. Because the daughter witnessed the assault on her mother and was also in a separate assault case by the same suspect, charges were filed. Scott's last known address is 121 Appian Way in Pasadena. From South County, our first subject is Mark Akers. He's a 44-year-old Caucasian male, 5'8", 160 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. Akers was serving a 1-year sentence at the Ordnance Road Correctional Center for second-degree assault and second-degree burglary beginning September 5th of 2018. On March 23rd of 2019, Akers left the correctional center for work but never showed up. He's considered to have escaped from work release, and a warrant for second-degree escape has been issued. His last known address is 1713 Shadyside Drive in Edgewater. The next subject is Bradley Marlon Yates. He's a 37-year-old Caucasian male, 6 foot 175 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. Yates has an open warrant for violation of probation. Yates was placed on supervised probation that included drug and alcohol testing and treatment requirements after being convicted of second-degree assault during June of 2010. Yates was non-compliant with his substance abuse treatment mandate, failing to report for group sessions and testing positive for cocaine during intake. A warrant for violation of probation has been issued for his arrest. Yates' last known address is 817 Mason Avenue in Deal. Our next subject is Kendall B. Wallace. He's a 30-year-old African-American male, 5'7", 180 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. He has an open warrant for VOP. During November of 2011, Wallace was convicted of violating a protective order and placed on 18 months of supervised probation. He has been non-compliant with his probation conditions, failing to report as directed, failing to provide verification of work or school attendance, and failing to provide verification of his home address for his agent so they could conduct a home visit. In addition, one of his conditions is to obey all laws and incur no serious motor vehicle violations. On December 12th of 2012, Wallace was charged with obstructing and hindering, false statement to an officer, and was arrested and charged with driving a motor vehicle on a suspended license. Kendall Wallace has 3 active warrants for his arrest. They are violation of probation, failure to appear, and obstructing and hindering. His last known address is 4067 Old Muddy Creek Road in Edgewater. The next subject is Paul Eugene Rhodes III. He's a 45-year-old Caucasian male, 5'10", 190 pounds, with gray hair and green eyes. On June 25th of 2019, county police officers responded to an address in Annapolis in reference to a burglary report. The burglary victims own a landscape company and reported that one of their employees witnessed their son's bike being taken by an unknown suspect from the garage. The witness, Mr. Paul Rhodes, stated he observed an unknown male riding away from the property on the bike. On August 16th of 2019, the same victims were contacted by Fast Cash Pawn Shop in Annapolis in reference to Paul Eugene Rhodes attempting to sell a lawnmower that belonged to them. The victims told the pawn shop that Paul Rhodes did not have permission to sell that lawnmower. After receiving the call from the pawn shop, the victims discovered that several pieces of lawn equipment were missing from the garage. During the course of the police investigation, they learned that several pieces of the victim's missing equipment and son's bike had all been sold to Fast Cash Pawn by Paul Rhodes. Rhodes was identified by his Maryland driver's license, which he provided to employees at Fast Cash Pawn at the time of the transaction. A warrant for theft between $1,500 and $25,000, false statement to an officer, and fourth-degree burglary were issued for Paul Rhodes III. His last known address is 16 Cypress Road in Annapolis. Our next subject is Calvin Ali Turner. He's a 37-year-old African-American male, 5'9", 200 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. He has an open warrant for violating the terms of his probation on his underlying assault conviction. Turner was convicted of second-degree assault during April of 2018 and placed on 2 years of supervised probation. Turner has not abided by all the conditions of his probation. He was to obey all laws, but picked up a new warrant for second-degree assault and malicious destruction of property. He was to not illegally possess or use any narcotic drug, controlled substance, or related paraphernalia. Yet he tested positive for oxycodone, oxymorphone, and noroxycodone, and marijuana. He was to attend and successfully complete alcohol and drug treatment, but he was discharged from the Project Chesapeake Treatment Center prior to completion for a non-attendance. As a result, a warrant for violation of probation was issued for Calvin Turner. His last known address is 225 Gross Avenue in Annapolis. Out of West County, our first subject is Natasha Crystal Knighton. She's a 30-year-old Caucasian female, 5'2", 110 pounds, with red hair and brown eyes. On October 22nd of 2018, Natasha Knighton was convicted of CDS possession, not marijuana, and driving without a license. She was sentenced to 18 months supervised probation. Knighton failed to report to her supervising agent as directed, and her agent made several attempts to contact her via phone and home visits with no success. On November 8th of 2018, Knighton was arrested for CDS possession, not marijuana, a false statement to a police officer. She also received traffic citations for driving a motor vehicle on a suspended license and for doing a forbidden act pertaining to a driver's license. She has a new warrant for violation of probation for absconding from supervision and for incurring new charges. Her last known address is 7501 Trafalgar Circle, apartment 215 in Hanover. The next subject is Cameron Keontae Brown. He's a 25-year-old African-American male, 5'8", 144 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. Brown has a warrant for first-degree assault and second-degree assault. On September 11th of 2019, county police responded to an address in Glen Burnie for a call of a domestic dispute. The officers observed an adult female and her daughter both crying, and the mother was bleeding from the nose. The adult female stated to the officers that she had an argument with the father of the child, Cameron Brown, which became physical. Brown punched the woman in the head several times, causing her to fall to the floor. Once she was on the floor, Brown slammed her head into a dresser several times and hit her in the nose with his shoe before leaving the scene. In addition to these charges, Brown also has a warrant for failure to appear for his prior assault and reckless endangerment hearing. His last known address is 8200 Dunfield Court in Severn. Our next subject is Rodney Gerard Porter. He's a 47-year-old African-American male, 6'1", 180 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. During October of 2007, Rodney Porter was found guilty of CDS possession, not marijuana, and was accepted into the drug court program. When Porter reported for one of his drug court hearings, he was ordered to take a urinalysis and never returned to the courtroom. A warrant for failing to appear for his hearing was issued for him. Mr. Porter's last known address is 1841 Mead Village Circle in Severn. The next subject is Ronald William. He's a 62-year-old African-American male, 5'9", 208 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. On May 11th of 2017, Ronald William provided his driver's license to rent a Dodge Dart from Dollar Thrifty at BWI Airport. He was supposed to return the vehicle on May 14th of 2017 to the same location, but he failed to do so, and several attempts to contact him by the rental agency were unsuccessful. Williams' last known address is 1456 Converty Drive in Hanover. Our next subject is Tamara Marie Wood. She's a 42-year-old Caucasian female, 5'5", 115 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. On July 28th of 2019, Wood was served with a protective order that states she shall not contact, attempt to contact, or harass, whether in person, by telephone, in writing, or by any means, Mr. Donald Doss. After service was made, county police were contacted and advised that Wood had been attempting to contact Doss via phone calls, text messages, and through Facebook Messenger. Officers have photographs of the messages and a call log showing the many attempts. As a result, a warrant for violation of a protective order was issued for Tamara Wood. Her last known address is 2018 Orchard Avenue in Jessup. All right, it's bonus segment time, and here are a few subjects who are wanted for failing to pay their court-ordered child support and what the bond amount is currently up to now. Our first subject is Corey Adams. He's a 50-year-old African-American male, 6'2", 185 pounds, brown hair and hazel eyes. He's wanted for failing to appear for his child support case. His bond is currently set at $10,000. Adams' last known address is 437 Williamstown Road in Millersville. The next subject is Stephen Michael Ballman. He's a 41-year-old Caucasian male, 6'3", 180 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. He's wanted for failing to appear for his child support case as well. His bond is currently set also at $10,000. Ballman's last known address is 307 Rainwater Way, apartment 104 in Glen Burnie. Our next subject is Brian Sean Klein. He's a 45-year-old Caucasian male, 5'7", 180 pounds, bald head, brown eyes. He's wanted for failing to appear for his child support case, and his bond is currently set at $6,000. Klein's last known address is 914 Andrews Road in Glen Burnie. Next up is Austin Taylor Davis. He's a 32-year-old African-American male, 5'10", 180 pounds, brown hair and brown eyes. He's wanted for failing to appear for his child support case, and his bond is currently set at $2,500. Mr. Davis's last known address is 1029 Smithville Street in Annapolis. The next subject is Mark James Farrow. He's a 31-year-old Caucasian male, 5'10", 160 pounds, with brown hair and hazel eyes. He's wanted for failing to appear for his support case, and his bond is currently set at $5,000. Farrow's last known address is 32 South Broadway Street in Baltimore. Next up is Robert Paul Hayslip Jr. He's a 43-year-old Caucasian male, 5'7", 220 pounds, with a bald head and brown eyes. He's wanted for failing to appear for his child support case. His bond is currently set at $7,500. Mr. Hayslip Jr.'s last known address is 305 9th Avenue Southeast in Glen Burnie. Our next subject is Charles Bernard Montgomery. He's a 29-year-old Caucasian male, 6 foot, 180 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. He's wanted for failing to appear for his child support case as well, and his bond is currently set at $25,000. Montgomery's last known address is 7843 East Furnace Branch Road, apartment A in Glen Burnie. As we wrap up this month's show, I want to thank you for joining me and for providing tips about the subjects we highlight. If you've had contact with or know the whereabouts of any individuals that you think might have an unserved warrant, please call the warrant tip line at 410-LOOKOUT or 410-566-5688. I'm Jim Fredericks, and I'll see you next month on The Lookout.